Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Rise and Shine followers. This is a Friday morning. We're Free Friday here. Welcome to the Rise and Scale podcast. This is dedicated to empowering home service business owners and contractors to thrive. We're in an ever evolving time right now, just coming off on the early crack of December, finishing up 2024. And I'm Jason Amato and excited to be lined up with you today. First, let me introduce my co host, Brandon Stowe. Brandon's a licensed mechanical engineer, CEO of Crackerjack Air Pros, Crackerjack Appliance Repair. He has uncanny expertise in the HVAC industry, brings valuable insights to us weekly and on our Rise and Scale page on Facebook. Welcome, Brandon. How's it going, man?
Hey Jason, thanks for that great introduction, man. It is going amazing. I'm really excited this morning. I'll let you do the kind of the intro on that. But my our guest here is a guy that I super admire, and it's going to be a good Friday. That's all I can say.
Great to hear, man. Good to have you. Good to see you. Yeah, I am thrilled to bring on our special guest today, Sam Wakefield. Sam is the founder and co host of the Close It Now podcast, which ranks in the top 2% of its category. Sam has a background in the HVAC industry, and he also has a new book that just came out. He contributed a chapter in there. He has valuable insights. He's a sales trainer and author who's passionate about sales, ethical practices in sales, and fostering long-term relationships between the technician, the company, and the client. So, with that being said, let's welcome and bring on our guest, Sam Wakefield, today.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
How's it going? Good
It's
morning. Good
good.
morning.
Good morning.
So, Sam, hey, how's it going? What's going on this Friday?
It's
What do you
good,
got
man.
rolling?
Yeah, so actually, I was sliding in here. We're doing kid drop off this morning. First of all, let me know if it's too loud. We've got like Google Fibers installing on my street right outside the window for this. So let me just make sure that you can hear me well. But yeah, things are exciting. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and what I tell everybody every single day of anytime I do training is today is the first day of the rest of your life. What are you going to do with it? And that's what we're doing today.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome, man. That's so good. Hey, Sam, you've got so much to unpack here today, and we're gonna get hopefully most of it unpacked. But I just want to say it's great to have you here. But hey, man, can you tell the audience a little bit about your journey? For those who don't know you, who is Sam Wakefield? What's he about? And how'd you get here, man?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't have some of the same stories as a lot of the other my peers in the industry. I kind of came up under the radar. I've been in the industry for 20 years now. So started out attic rat years ago, pulling ductwork in the hot attics of the Texas Panhandle. So I was on the crew for a couple years. I did a little bit of service, but the moment that I stepped in that first house and made the first sale, it was like this huge moment of wow, this is for me. So involved in the Texas Panhandle, ended up being a co-owner, grew and then exited the home performance side of the company there. I owned a Dr. Energy Saver franchise for about 5 years, and then moved to Austin, became the sales manager, sales trainer for a small company here named Precision Heating and Air. We grew from, we were a little under 3 million, and this is in 2016, and grew to over 8 million in just under 3 years. And then the owner sold the company. I took the exit, and at that point in time, I started writing the system. We were podcasting, we were training, and moved into training full time. And that's the nutshell version of how I landed here with just growing the show. I just got the Spotify Wrapped for the year, and it blew my mind. I could not believe that the Close It Now podcast was listened to in 71 countries this year.
Very cool.
Wow,
What
that's
was
impressive.
your most used country outside the U.S.?
Outside of the U.S., it's Canada. Third to that is the New England. I'm sorry, not New England. Outside of that is New Zealand and Australia, of all places.
That's
And
so
then it
cool.
starts to drop off through basically if there's any level of English and any level of air conditioning in the world, it's been listened to. And I'm so grateful and blessed to be in this place to be able to impact some lives.
Sam, do you find that that's the like the biggest category of your listeners, the biggest makeup, people who are in HVAC, or is it kind of evenly dispersed through like electrical, plumbing? Like, what does your audience look like?
Yeah, so most of it has been in HVAC, in HVAC. That's where the foundation of my history is. So that's where I started. But as it's grown, it's still probably the lion's share, maybe 80% of the listeners are in HVAC, but it's really starting to grow outside of that. I've had people message me everything that they do, everything from, of course, electrical, plumbing, garage doors, roofs. Um, I had somebody message me one time that sells California closets. Somebody sells irrigation. Somebody sells cars. It's because what we touch on is not necessarily the nuts and bolts and, hey, did I park in the right place, or pet the dog type of stuff. This isn't 1985 anymore. This is what we really focus on is the psychology of people, right? How do we care at a higher level and be the best professional we can to make the biggest impact? And that's when we start talking about people's brains, it doesn't matter what we're selling, but the psychology is the same.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you want to dive in a little bit into the book that just came out, your chapter, the contribution, do a little brief discussion
Sure.
on that and a couple of the key points there.
Yeah, we
So
sure can.
first of all, tell us the book and your contribution, and a little story about that, and then we'll dive into some of the book itself.
Sure. Yeah. I have a friend that does this a book collaboration a couple times a year, and I've seen several of them in the past. And this one really inspired me because the name of it is Inner Revolution. The subtitle of the book is Embracing Change to Achieve Greatness, and that really caught my attention. And so the book is combined of a whole bunch of different authors who are specialists in a ton of different modalities, so to speak. So everything from mental health to nutrition to fitness. My chapter is called Change Your Language, Change Your Results, because the power of communication is everything. And the
Love
reason I
that.
was so excited about this, the passion, the focus of Close It Now is, sales training is what we are, the focus. That's what, where we start, but we don't end there because we all know the biggest thing that moves the needle in sales is not learning a new script and role playing. It's becoming someone worth buying from. So that's a big part of why I was really excited about this book. And so, yeah, the several things that we talk about in the book are just a lot of simple language patterns that we can adopt that will really make a massive difference. Things that don't close someone's mind, things that open their mind, things that very simple to adopt that don't take a ton of practice. It's more of awareness moment. And I love awareness moments because once you have one of those, you have to intentionally go backwards to not be aware of something, to not use that new practice.
I think we have a lot of the same things there on philosophy. I get hung up on words like even sales. I'm talking about like it's relationships for me, and then the word follow up. I'm like we failed to make a connection. Let's make a connection. Let's talk about the power of language and the way you use it. And this is highlighted in your book. Um, I believe I believe it's the first topic in your book called The Power of Language. And you talk about the difference between asking if someone is interested versus open. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is one of the easiest ways for, especially a lot of times when we're training technicians or different people that, are just now learning some of the language things, they don't realize so many times we think that we're asking the right questions, but we're really not. So the kind of the foundation for a lot of what we talk about is, helping people get clear on questions. Tony Robbins always says, ask better questions, get better answers. And so that's a big part of where that comes from. So interested, the foundation for interested, no one can be interested in anything that they don't know anything about, right? There's no level of education there. That's why, in fact, one of the worst things that so many people do is, for example, Brandon be my homeowner real quick. So here's a good example. We'll say we'll take plumbing for a minute, like water treatment. Hey, Brandon, so we've got some really great water treatment. Were you interested in hearing about that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I've got this plumbing problem that we need to fix first, but yeah, sure. Maybe after that.
Okay, gotcha. So that's actually a little more open than most people usually even respond the first time. But notice what happened. There was this hesitance. There was this like, oh, I don't know, maybe. But so let's reframe the question a little bit and show you how it works. So, hey, Brandon, once we get this plumbing problem taken care of, I've got a couple things on the truck that really help improve your family's health. Would you be open to some more information about that?
Sure, man. Yeah, that'd be great.
Now, let's time out real quick. First of all, notice what happened. This is a subconscious thing that people don't even know what they do. Notice the first time, Brandon, there was a lot more body language, a lot more movement, a lot more lean back. This time it was very calm. He actually leaned forward, nodded his head slightly, and said, "Sure." That happens every time, no matter what. So because it's subconscious, it's in the brain. So we instantly opened the door and said, "Hey, are you open?" So the basic foundation of this is no one wants to be perceived as closed-minded. Everyone wants to be perceived as open-minded. So when we ask, all we're asking is, are you open to more information? We're not asking to close the deal. We're not asking them to buy anything. They're always going to say yes. And then we have the opportunity to educate on something that would fix a problem or maybe improve someone's life. And from there, then we can ask if they're interested once they're educated on whatever it is that we are, discussing.
Powerful. Good stuff.
That's pretty amazing, man. And I've also been a huge fan of like psychology and the homeowner, and we've talked in the past. But just backing up just a minute, what inspired you? I mean, you do a lot of stuff. You've got sales training, you've got your podcast, you stay busy, you do on sites and consults. But like, what inspired you to do a chapter in a book? Like, how did that come about for you? Did someone ask you? Did you see an opportunity? Like, what happened and how did you get there?
Yeah, actually, it's one of those moments that I have my own book written and I've been sitting on it for about 3 years because I was stuck in that moment of, well, every single time that I think it's ready, I learn something and I want to go back and change something. So I basically, a couple people in I'm in a mastermind, and they're like, dude, just go for it. Just get started. Start here. And so it was an easy step into authorship because it was a collaborative effort here. And the cool news is we're in this launch here in the next couple of days. We're already on pace to hit bestseller status. And so that was one of the main drivers, is really just getting started. You know, I've been the poster child in the past for being caught in the perfectionist loop, and this was a huge step for me to just say, you know what, I'm good with moving forward. Let's get started, because and it really goes back to our foundations of the way we train is, a moving car can't turn around. If you're facing the wrong direction but you're stopped, you're always going to be facing the wrong direction. But once you get started, then we have the ability to change course, right? And so I was like, let's go. We might as well do it now because, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today.
Yeah, perfectionism is the enemy of progress. And I actually was just looking at Dan Antonelli's feed, and he's writing another another branded book. And the thought there is like, what could you improve from the last one? Well, obviously he's learned things. And how do you learn at that level, at that pinnacle, at that peak? And so, probably what you have now is so good, and it can get better. But hey, that's what the second version and the third version and the fourth version is for,
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's not one and done. So I look forward to you eventually getting over that. I hope this one opened that up and you get that finished and get it out, because
Absolutely.
a lot of people want to read that and hear from you.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's I have an intention to have the ebook for mine completed by the end of the year.
Awesome, man.
Well, I've been caught in that perfectionist loop. I'm guilty. Happens to me, right? I mean, whew. So when these people, when you said, like, if I got that right, all these other actors or authors contributing, that helps get the word out more,
Mhm.
and things like that. So the launch phase can go. Is that what you were referring to, right, when you were talking
Yeah,
about that?
exactly. All of us are, really sharing it into our networks, and through the support of our friends and family, and just people who, everybody that have had the privilege to speak into their lives through podcasts or whatever, are supporting it, and it's been really refreshing to see such a community step in and support the launch.
I love to read, man. What's the name of that book again?
Yeah, it's Inner Revolution: Embracing Change to Achieve Greatness, and you can get it on Amazon. It's $6.98, so it's not.
Nice.
We've got it priced at just. We're literally selling it at cost to help more people right now.
Let's talk about more about your sales training process, and get into anchoring positive emotions.
All right.
This is a technique I believe is also effective in sales. Sam writes about this, does quite a bit of a hefty paragraph diving into this in the book. And so, explain on how emotions influence decision making, and how you talk about anchoring positive emotions.
Yeah. This is one of my fun topics I love to cover, because I've always likened it to this buying decision is kind of like driving a car, right? Lots of car analogies, of course, because I've always been a car guy. But logic is the steering wheel. It's to point the wheels in the right direction, right? That's if we only stay there, though, what happens is we go through the process, and are we the company for you? Yes, absolutely. Am I a great representative for you? You're comfortable with me overseeing the project? Yeah, you've been awesome. And the project, it makes sense, right? You can understand. Yeah, it's great. But we're going to have to think about
Yeah.
it. And that's where it's up, because logically it makes sense. They know they need to do it. There's nothing to really drive them forward. Well, we know that emotion is the gas pedal. That's what causes people to take action, and to take action now. So the missing piece for almost every home service forever has been the emotional side of it. And it was about 2020 was the massive shift into a much more emotion focused buyer, because all of a sudden the world became okay, gave permission, especially in North America, to have feelings, right?
Yeah.
We now have permission to have feelings and emotions. And if you don't believe it, just look at the news. We didn't before then. We didn't hear headline news stories about so and so was emotionally triggered, but
Mhm.
we do now. So believe it or not, or agree with it or not, it's just how our society is and how people think. And so that's all of that together is classic. Why someone does something has nothing to do with the technical reason. You know, so many people get caught in the loop of, well, this is broken, or there's maybe some code is off or whatever, so we're here, do you want to fix this? I'm like, well, it's always worked just that way. But so we're selling to the house, we're not selling to the people. The people's problem is maybe the room's too cold, maybe the room's too hot, maybe we can't breathe good. That's the problem. Along the way, that's the why the problem exists. So if we can solve their problem, then we're creating a change in their human experience, and then painting that picture. That's the reason people move forward.
That's a great point. I spent many years, 25 years, kind of in and out of homes, studying the homeowner, ranked in the top of the scoreboards of the largest organizations. And I can tell you, you said something that I use and that works for me, and I think it's very important. And that is you're selling to the house, and I would say it to the homeowner in a different way, because what the homeowner is asking for is not necessarily what needs to be done, and it's not necessarily the most important thing, and it's hard to communicate with that.
Mhm.
And anchoring positive emotions and getting into the conversation is a doorway. But really, if the house could talk, it would tell the homeowner, look, I don't need that. I need this first.
Mhm.
And so you talk about transformative phrasing and how focusing on the potential rather than the problem changes the sales dynamic.
Right.
And so do you want to talk a little bit about the importance of framing those solutions
Mhm.
positively, like for example, the comparison of reactive versus proactive language, and how you use transformative phrasing to communicate to the homeowner?
Yeah, absolutely. The so and this actually will tie in really well to the anchoring emotions part of the conversation, because when there's two parts to every problem, every solution, right? We have to think about it almost like a timeline in a way. So we ask first about, when we're asking about their concerns, their problems. In fact, one of the things we train is just that we don't do a ton of scripting, but a little bit of the scripting is so hey, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you get to tell me what your concerns and what you're experiencing living in your home. So we're just set up front saying, hey, I'm going to listen to the level that no one's ever listened before. And then, so that's looking back into the past. So we ask them about all of those things first. And then as we come across things that are maybe some indicators of, oh, they're really concerned about this, we dive a lot deep, way deeper than anyone ever has before, because we need to find out, how deep does this problem go? Where does the well go? And then the part that most people miss on the emotional side of this is they'll ask all of the first layer questions about the problem, but then they forget to ask about who, or like the person or people that problem affects. And that's the part that they're really caring about. Like they don't really, yes, it's cool to fix a problem with the house or a problem with something else. But if we can solve a problem for, say, little Johnny's room, that's he sleeps too cold and has to have extra blankets. If we can help him solve that problem, and as a parent, now our concern is, hey, we don't have to wake up with sniffles, and you know it's going to be a better morning and smoother because he slept better and school's better. If I know that is an instant salute is going to happen the minute this project is done, I don't care what time of the year it is, because now I have a reason to find a solution to help someone that I care about. And so that's a big part of painting that picture forward in the time frame. So we ask about the problems in the past, and then we turn it around and say, okay, won't it feel great to know, first of all, clarity. Can you see how this is causing this problem? And can you see how by solving this problem, we're not going to have to add the extra blankets, or add a dangerous space heater to their room all night, even though the fire code says we should never do that. And so now, wouldn't it feel great to know we're safe and comfortable, and benefit, and schoolwork is going to be easier for them. They're not going to be as grumpy in the mornings, and mom is going to be happier because now it's a better morning, right? So it's just painting a picture, kind of a picture forward of what life can be like, and that is the reason that people take action now.
Now, Sam, let me ask you something. So there's like, we talk a lot about this psychology, transformative phrasing, all of this stuff. Like, what does this lead up to? So take me in through the process of being a company owner. I have a HVAC company, And obviously, especially now we're in winter time, we're in an off season, what is the result that you've seen? Like, you've been on site, you've done a lot of consulting. What are you seeing these companies look like before and after implementing something like this? Just the small changes. And I know you also go through, I don't want the audience to be remiss that Sam is really good about going through every step, from the going in and measuring things properly to performing load calculations to the whole 9 yards. This is like that soft skill that we're talking about today. But Sam, go ahead and tell us, like, what's that before and after look like for a company, and for companies like this time of year, what would be the benefit of implementing this type of training or structure?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is there's always the perfect, any time that you do it is the perfect time. A lot of that's one thing that's, a lot of people have this idea that should only train in a certain time of the year to prepare for maybe the next season or whatever, but every single time is the right time, because there's never a wrong time to sharpen the axe and get better.
Here,
And,
here.
and so, but outside of that, yeah, I mean, this time of year, last year, kind of looking back, we had so many companies. One that I can think of specifically, we were out in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the company they were doing great already. Functioning around a $30 million a year organization, and 10 advisors that we were working with. And just an example of one of the people, their top guy did 4 million the year before, and after I was there, and it's still, we're 13 months later from being there, or almost about a year, and his average ticket went up 50% from 9,000 to about 16,000, and it stayed there all year. So it didn't go back down. That's the difference in our types of results that we get, and the whole organization, where a lot of places all around saw dips and that kind of thing. They actually made budget across the year, which is pretty good feat for 2024 for a lot of more traditional companies. But on average, what we normally see is around 20 to 30% close rate increase, average ticket increase. But the most important number that I really love to emphasize, it's way less about average tickets going up, and it's much more about what's the gross margin. It's not how much we sell it for, how much did we keep, right? So what we really train is, let's have bigger, healthier tickets and stop discounting and sell. We're helping people with value, and that's really, when we care at the highest level, that's what it's about. So, but yeah, usually on average we're seeing 20 to 30% revenue increase, and that lasts because we're affecting change internally, not just here's a new script and let's role play this and off little birdies, hope for the best.
What do you think your biggest takeaway is there? Like, for instance, in this case in North Carolina, what do you think was there any one thing you taught them that had the biggest impact versus other things? Like, we have the home inspection, we have the soft skills, we have, I know it all goes together, but like, if a company could take one thing and at least start today, where would you point them?
Yeah, that would be so most in the sales process, it's actually kind of a two-part answer. The first thing is, most people have and this is if it's a comfort advisor, I like to call them project managers, if it's a service tech, whatever the person is in the house, a lot of times the process is out of order. And if the process is out of order, we're not psychologically unlocking the right things in the right order. So the one thing that have such a peeve about is, in the beginning of the appointment, do not talk about money before it's time to talk about money. So what I recommend is, eliminate all of the questions around, what were you looking to spend today? What was your budget? What would be a comfortable monthly payment? What would be a comfortable monthly payment that wouldn't take food off your table? All of those types of questions, I recommend to eliminate them, because they don't know. the average North American is about 1.3 systems in their lifetime. They've never done this before. They don't have any gauge of past experience typically. Now, of course, plenty do. But so we don't want to, like, let's not start there, because if we start with money, then what do we think they're thinking about while we're trying to ask these other questions? So moving that back until it's time to talk about money. And then the second part of that is most people in their process spend very little time asking questions in the discovery phase and way more time with the house measuring. So this goes back to selling to the house. If anything, reverse that. A true discovery session, and you can liken it like this. I don't like the aggressive analogy. The analogy makes a lot of sense. Stealth call is like entering a gunfight, and you've got your revolver, but the problem is we have no bullets. And the only way that we can get bullets in our gun is in discovery, asking the right questions. And the more questions we ask and the better questions we ask, now we have ammunition for at the end when it's time to close, be like, okay, remember you said this, 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 and this. That's why we put together this as the best fit for you. And so that, and of course, giving options and that whole process there, it's a whole nother conversation, but no one asked enough questions in discovery. If I could recommend anything is spend, it could be 20 minutes, 45 minutes. Discovery could be an hour, hour and a half. It's fine. We know the statistics are out there. Rilla's got the statistics with over 1 million recorded appointments. There is zero curve where the length of time in the house, the average ticket drops off. It only gets higher. So if we spend more time building relationship and asking the true concerning questions and find out all of the components before we make any type of a recommendation, that is the biggest thing, is spend more time in discovery, ask more questions, and everything else is going to go smoother for you.
Did that ever surprise you, those Rilla numbers? I'm sorry, Jason, what were you saying?
You're good. No, you're good. Go ahead.
Did that ever surprise you, the data that Rilla's been putting out? Has it ever been in the face of what you knew? Did you ever have to pivot or change things, or is it as expected? Because I mean, for me, it seems, and everyone in the industry is like, wow, look at this. And I'm like, that's what I came to expect, because the longer you stay in a house, the more you get to know someone. Like we just talk about just relationship building. The longer you know a friend, the better a friend you become. And so to me, it wasn't surprising, but is there I know you've taken a little more look into their data. Is there anything in there that surprised you or changed the way that you approach your training or your own philosophies?
That's a fun question. No, actually, when it came out, I had this moment of well, of course it is. Because I had the same experience. So when I was doing home performance, my average appointment was 3 hours. I would come in, I did the full-on blower door and infrared scan, all the things. But I was also putting up, $30,000 projects, no equipment involved, strictly installation and fixing a house. And so, back in, 2011, 2012, I was one of these guys up here. I was one of the founding members with that network of the $1 Million Club, which selling over $1 million in insulation only in 2012 was kind of a big deal, right? And so, the numbers were wildly different. And so it's just proved out time and time again through thousands of reps in the house that it just makes sense. The one little piece of it that I loved was there's not a place for length of time in the house that it falls off. I expected, after 4 or 5 hours maybe, but no, it just, the longer people, and of course, there's a lot of components. One would be, if we have some of these psychological shortcuts and ninja tricks, it does shrink the time. And the market is different. The fast-paced market, in Austin versus way out in an urban area, the times are going to be different. So when we're looking at averages and statistics, we have to remember all of those kind of components too.
For sure. You talked about being in the house longer and the discovery process. We would call it creating an agenda at the door.
Mhm.
And so many people out there that are happy. You talked about $8,000 tickets and $16,000 tickets. You know, I experienced 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, and people don't believe me all the time.
Mhm.
You know, you go through there and we'd be like, well, I broke it down into processes, and
Mhm.
I started that actually before we ever got to the table, before we ever talked about numbers. And I actually started it at the door. I created an agenda
Mhm.
at the door and I asked permission. And so, can you talk about that process in the discovery? I think this is important. I heard Lincoln from Any Hour talking about the process on Jackie's podcast
Mhm.
with this that just recently aired about the agenda, the agenda, and it worked very well for me. So in between that transition and uh, meeting the homeowner, we would do a little bit of a greet, talk about a little bit of the agenda, and then the
Mhm.
discovery process. Can you talk about those steps and how you train on that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you're exactly right. The greeting at the front, and one of the things that I right before the agenda is we train to do some introductions, right? People need to know who they're talking to because they listen at a different level. Just a short example of this is, the world's most incredible violinist sells out Carnegie Hall 30 days in a row. And what does he do during the day? He practices in the subway in street clothes, and people throw change in his case, and don't even know who they're listening to because it has everything to do with credibility. And so that's why I recommend in the greet phase, it's not our classic goofy form stuff of, oh, I love your truck. Hey, you play golf, I play golf. You wear clothes, I wear clothes. You have a dog, I have a dog. We're the same. No, that people recognize that as just false. They smell the BS from a mile away and their BS meter starts to go off. A true professional shows up as a professional. I'm not there to be, we can be friendly, but I'm not there to be your friend. We're not going to lunch next week. We could, but that's not the intention. As a professional, we show up with this agenda. And so, in fact, I'll give everybody the script that I trained for the agenda. I'm not the trainer that has like a gatekeeper and, oh, here, you have to pay me money to get stuff. I freely give, and the people that can use it will use it, and everybody else, then when we want more, then that's why we're here. So the agenda script that we train is really simple. It's really smooth, but it's 10 years and probably about $20,000 of investment to come up with every single word. But it's really simple. So the foundation is permission based. Everything we do is permission based. So Jason, would it be okay if I went through the agenda with you?
Yeah,
All right, perfect. So first of all, I've got a plan for our meeting today to be most efficient and help you best. I'd love to go over that with you now, okay?
sounds great.
Oh, perfect. So first of all, what we're going to do is I'm just going to ask you a few questions. You get to tell me what you're experiencing and what your concerns are living in your home. Then based on your answers, I'm just going to make a short list. I call it an action list of exactly what you'd like me to look at today, and that way I know what's important to you. And then once I have that list, then I'll go around the house. We'll run some I'll grab some measurements. We'll run some calculations. We'll sit down. I'll show you what those calculations are. Then tell you what, Jason, we'll just work together to come up with a project and a proposal that you would accept. Sound good?
All right, looking forward to it.
Excellent. But a lot of magic just happened in those few short lines, right? And so that's setting the right agenda. And that's that's the Comfort Advisor version. There's a different version for technicians, et cetera, with some slight modifications. But the point is, we told them we're going to listen. We told them we're going to be concerned and care. We told them we're going to make a list of what's important to them. And then only then, once we know what's important to them, then we'll look at the measurements. And anytime in the discovery, they're like, well, how do you fix that? Well, listen, I don't know yet. Well, we don't guess at this. We don't believe in guesswork. We want to get some exact numbers. I'll show you exactly what it'll take to fix this. And then through that care and that concern and making a list of what's important to them. And then just what I love about the question at the end is, so we'll just work together to come up with a project and proposal that you would accept. Sound good? And when they say yes to that, because they always will, at the end, when instead of getting stuck with, oh, the price is high or whatever, Okay, well, no problem. Well, earlier, remember we said we'd work together on this. So what do we need to do to make this fit today? And it just keeps their mind open to right size the project, because we have to remember they called us, the number one thing they're trying to decide on, is this the right company? That's it. That's all they're trying to decide. And so many people get off track and think, well, they got stuck in the decision phase. Should I do a 2-stage or should I do a variable speed? No, that's not the decision. The first decision is just, am I the right company? The rest is like, so it's like going to the restaurant and ordering off the menu. If they don't like a steak, you're going to order a chicken. You're not leaving the restaurant to go somewhere else. So we've got to, the first thing is just, are we the right company and the right person? The rest is just figuring out the details.
Absolutely. Good stuff there. Do you want to talk about options? Are you big options guy?
Yeah, we can. I do it a lot differently though. This is, you'd asked earlier about the two, if there was one or two things that move the needle more than anything else. This is the way that we present is the one thing that I've not had a single person who's taken the trainings not say, this is the most incredible way to explain equipment that I've ever seen. So the way that we do go through our options are, it's a kind of a hybrid of having options, but I only recommend 4, not 6. I recommend 4 options, and there's a whole bunch of science and statistics behind that. And that comes from outside of our industry. So the science proves that 4 options is the best for the best type of.
I love that. I was just talking to somebody about that, and they were like, "No, it's 3," and then somebody else said, "No, it's 6." I'm like, "Hey, man, I studied from Tom Hopkins, and he did a 3-option close, and then
Mhm.
I found out that the 4th one was the caveat, and I teach a master class on it." But let's go
I love
on
it. I
that.
love
Let's
it. Yeah.
keep
So
going, man. I
Now,
love to hear you
now
say
hold on. I
4.
got one more thing to interject here before we get to 3 versus 6 versus 4. Now, are your techs selling techs, the system that you train, or are you 4 options in a tech, 4 options in a salesperson, which might be 8 options total? Like, tell me about that real quick.
yeah. So it depends on the role. It depends on the type of appointment, the type of call. So as a caveat, every single thing that I train, these are best practices, but also most importantly, I train the system so people can forget it. It's like being a musician. You learn a new scale on your instrument so you can forget it to make music. You learn a process and you learn scripting and all of this kind of thing so you can follow the system until you have it mastered, and then you can adapt and change. So everything that we train is you're 80%, meaning there are going to be moments where it's okay to modify this and adapt it and shift it. So I'm not also just locked into this concrete version of it has to be 4 no matter what. So that's part of it. And what we train is the ability, we're teaching people how to think, right? How to ask better questions and how to think on their own. Because if all we ever have is, here's a script, and if they say these words, you say these words. But if they change a few of the words, now we're just straight out of luck. We don't have a weight. But so if we understand where things are coming from behind the questions and understanding how to think about it, then that's where it falls. So as far as the options go, it depends on the role. We like 4 options with as repair options. 4 options are awesome for replacement. Love 4 options. If somebody is a selling tech in that role that hybridizes, it's okay. What we do is we train, you got your 4 repair options. And then when the appointment shifts into, would you like to see some options for replacement, or the homeowner starts to ask, wow, what's a new one cost? All those types of questions. However, that person, flips it into into a replacement conversation. What we do is, instead, we don't land with having 8 options or more. What we land with is, we're going to close the chapter and move forward into the next chapter, but we're always going to leave a bookmark in the first one. And this is one of the pet peeves that gets me. And this is the reason so many techs will go through the repair process. Homeowner asks about replacement, flips over to that conversation, They end with it, I want to think about it. And then the kiss of death is they call back and say, we got it repaired with another company. And that is horrible because there's no reason they should ever feel like they need to step outside of our doors to step back for replacement. But we close that door when we move into those type of conversations a lot of times. So the best way to keep that open is just, okay, great. So absolutely, of course, we can look at those options as well. But somewhere in that process, there's no bad choices here. What I want you to know is I want you to feel comfortable making the right decision. I'm here to help you make the best decision, but getting going and getting it working is better than it not working right now. So, because we know if we're priced right on repair, that's fine too, and we're gaining trust and we're keeping a client. Because the goal, especially in our market right now, is not to get new clients; it's to keep the ones we have, as well as get new. I mean, so many people have forgotten the classic, Ron Smith, HVAC spells wealth. The goal is to get and keep customers, right? And so in that process, it turns the corner. It's like, okay, great. So now we need to talk about a few more things. If we're looking at a bigger project, I need to ask you a few more questions. Is that all right? Yes. Okay, great. And then we shift into more of the comfort advisor role, go through that process. And then at the end where we land is, so which of these do you think is the best fit for you and your family? And we're educating, and then helping them decide, but we're not helping them decide on something that is outside of our doors.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Now,
did that answer the question directly enough?
Well, quickly, so we hear a lot about, and I've mentioned this when we were talking with Sarah a couple weeks ago, but and we talked about a little bit about the data that came out with Rilla, but call by call management as a whole, outside of the software itself, how does that fit in? If a company's doing that, are you suggesting they keep that, add that, remove it? And what's your experience with, it's kind of a buzzword, right? So like, what's your experience with call by call management?
Yeah, actually, that's my experience changed my opinion of it changed dramatically pretty recently. I just had a gentleman named Kent Bowl on the show, which the episode released this week, where we went over a deep dive into call by call management. Of all the places I've traveled across the country, I've seen it done wrong 9 out of 10 times. And so when call by call management is done wrong, we end up with technicians and advisors who feel micromanaged and also feel like, well, and what most of the companies I've seen, what they'll do is they'll stop training their frontline people and only pour training now into the one catch-all person in the office. And also what that creates is an environment where people feel stunted and locked out from any type of vertical movement within the organization. And also if you build a company around 1 or 2 people who are your total unicorn rock stars, what happens if that person gets sick? What happens? There's no way to scale that. And so that's always been my really hardcore opinion. And so call by call done right, this ideology lays perfectly on top of it because there is a process of everybody's on the same team, and it all has to do with everybody being working together and really synergistically. And the permission step, the big missing piece in most call by call is what homeowners say is they feel forced into something because of the pace of it and because of the way most people train those qualifying questions are so hard and such a hard close, forcing people to make a yes decision before they even know the information. And so a lot of the reviews, people feel forced into it. Call by call done right is permission based. It's like, okay, great. We'd love to get us, we'll call this the internal second opinion. We kind of talked about that before, but let's get an internal second opinion. We always believe in double checking. We would hate to have you spend any more money than you need to on this project. So is it okay with you if we go ahead and get a little more, get a more experienced person or just another person over here to double check and make sure that this is what we're looking at? Yes. So that next person comes over with technical experience. we're not just sending the guy that was selling cars last week to come over and sell somebody a new system. We're sending somebody with some experience to actually trust and verify what the first person found. Then that first person has some experience to be able to take the conversation further. So it becomes much more of a team effort. And then if they are the ones that presents and closes, awesome. If they're not, then it passes on to, they take the ball right to the goal line, and then it passes into the office for maybe a virtual or somebody over the phone to take it the rest of the way. But what this does, it builds in the opportunity for the homeowner to have more experience, more touch points, feel cared for more, and then also the biggest thing is somebody has the time to sit long enough to ask the questions, to truly care. Because if not, then we're just moving volume with no regard for the outcome for the homeowner. And we all know that that's such a missing piece in our industry right now, is that everybody stopped training the technical. And it's gross to me. And I 100% agree with the post you put up a little while back, Brandon, about this very thing.
If you're going to invest into training, it needs to be adapted into your full process with several different systems you have in each different role. And there's no buzzword that's going to fix a company, and there's owners that go on and go all in on some of these new things. It's only going to be temporary. It's only going to piss your people off.
Yeah.
And if you trust your company on one new system, one new metric, one new software, and you go all in, then say your prayers, man, because you don't have a system. You have hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I've had that in the past when people have hired me. I didn't, especially when I was first really starting doing on-site visits, I didn't have nearly as thorough of a discovery phase of my own. Are we the right fit? Are you doing things already or are there other things in your organization that are broken that need fixed before you're ready for me? And so what happened is, I was working with an organization, and after everything was great for the first site visit, and then by the time we got into a virtual training and then the next site visit, I realized we're a couple of months down the road and not a single thing had been implemented. And I was like, guys, I'm literally here showing you how you can grow the company dramatically. But if you're not willing to make changes, you're not going to get changes. And so we canceled that. It was like, it's not a good fit.
Who commented on your?
I'm not going to keep coaching you.
Who commented on your status, Jason? They said, I call that shelf help. Was that your status that I saw the other day? Someone's status that you were like saying something about books.
Ryan Shoot from Wizard of Oz.
I thought that was a great way to word that, shelf help. Sam, you're right. Like when I was consulting in 2020, so many business owners, I get into their offices and I'd see every great book that you could read, and every system is in those books. And I mean, if you actually took in those books and implemented it, you could have a 50 and 60 and $70 million company. And yet here they are hiring me because they don't know where to start and what to do. And I asked them, I said, well, have you read those books? Oh yeah, I've read it front to, cover to cover. Okay. So why am I here?
Tell me one thing you implemented out of each one. Let's start there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I see that a lot as well, where, business owners, right now we have the web and so much power on Facebook and so much power in these books and so much power in this AI and everything else that, I mean, every answer that you want is literally at your fingertips, but yet they refuse to actually do the work. And so I think the biggest thing is like consistency. If you can't actually go and do the work, if reading is all you stop at, nothing, it doesn't matter who you hire or what you do in the future, or what software you have. To Jason's point, getting the fancy softwares out there and the call by call and the automation follow-up stuff doesn't matter if you don't show up to the customer's house, if
Yeah.
you don't, have a good process of dispatching texts efficiently or getting to places on time or answering the phones properly, or, all these small foundational things that lead to that butterfly effect to where a system like that can run properly. And, we see it all too often. There's a severe lack of process and systems in a company, but sales training is the most lucrative. It's the most, the shiniest object that's in front of them. And so, you've seen, I guess, where you've gone to these companies and they're just not ready for you. So what should they do first before they're ready for someone like Sam Wakefield to come in? Like, what would you advise?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a virtual program for individuals, for the smaller companies that may have like one person, they're not ready to bring us in for a full site visit. So, I have some great programs for, a handful of individuals that it's more of a coaching program across time, because that's the only way to really see true growth is consistent, persistent, disciplined actions, small steps across a long period of time creates the compound effect, like butterfly effect, like you're talking about. But for a company to be ready for us to come in, they need to have enough things in place so the owner is typically working on the business, not in the business. So we need to be at a place where we've grown enough where the company is running and the owner's not out doing service calls, only doing that or sales calls if they want to, like yourself, but not because you have to, right? So there's a big difference there. Having enough systems in place. And really what I've recognized, the sweet spot right now where we're really able to move the needle really dramatically is a company about $5 to $10 million a year range. Maybe just under, maybe just over, but that's where the needle moves so insanely dramatic that we're really starting to narrow down and focus in for that size of company right now. Of course, we have things for grander scales. But
hard shifts being made in that
yeah,
size.
that's the one that you're exactly right. They've got all the big business walls they're working to overcome, especially right at that 5 to 7 million mark. There's this place where all of a sudden it's time to invest in a lot more overhead. And if the sales don't catch up real fast, now they're upside down for a while. And most of those companies don't have the runway to support it until organically it catches up. And so that's right when we're able to step in and catch sales up so fast. And that's usually the last system that most people focus on. They'll focus on that.
Let's warn them right now. If you're between 5 and 10 million and you're not getting a ton of extra help, you are going to keep these hills you're climbing. You're going to keep going from one side of the hill to the next.
Yep.
Because you need help in the 5 to 10 million area. I know
Mhm.
I've owned, sold, and exited over 4 of those right between that area. And I'm talking with almost a dozen different people right now that own in that area.
Mhm.
There are tons and tons of hurdles you need help in.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the big ones that I see, especially in our current market, is, with private equity groups and all these different things buying up companies like crazy. And what we always hear, so zooming back, y'all have both been in the industry long enough. Let's have a little history lesson for everybody that hasn't. This has happened before. Massive consolidation move in the 80s and 90s. All of this happened. So I see it as like generations of companies. I see companies that start small, that grow, they get to a place of being purchased, gets combined and rolled into this big monster conglomerate. And then the new companies are facing the giants, so to speak. And so there's a time and place for both positions. But what happens is so many of the smaller companies, I don't know why these huge companies are outselling us like crazy when they're twice the price. Well, it's because you don't have your sales process and system in place. And if you position properly, what I see over time is those small companies are going to be the next ones. People will realize, unless it's done insanely well, all of those companies are going to eventually phase out and move on, just like in the past we've seen it happen before. And so now the new generation of the companies that are growing and doing things right as solos are going to grow and grow and grow. And it's just this interesting cycle. Now, I'm not saying just only negative against bundling into a PE group when there's great systems, but most of them don't have anything they add, they just take away.
Well, we live in a world of instant gratification, and everybody wants to grow and few people want to put the work in. And
Yep.
that's why we led the show off with things about creating positive experiences, anchoring positive emotions, proactive language instead
Yeah.
of reactive, using transformative phrasing. We talked a lot about a lot of stuff. And you mentioned
But one quick
there's some.
thing, I would say one quick thing. I realized right now we never actually answered the emotional anchoring. Let's do that super quick. The reason this is so important is the actual science brainwave studies, when they put the sensors on brains and they measure what the brainwaves look like around all these different hundreds of emotions and sub emotions. And what they found is, and of course we know we show up for any appointment, doesn't matter what it is, unless it's just a routine maintenance, we show up for any appointment, the homeowner is not in a fun, happy, energetic mood. They're in a negative mood. So one of the things that we have to do through our process is create a comfortable, safe space for them to make and build trust so they can make a comfortable buying decision. If we haven't created a comfortable, fun, energetic space for them to make that buying decision, no wonder we get, I want to think about it. Because here's where the science falls in. The emotions surrounding homeowners when you first show up doesn't anywhere match anywhere we want to be. Now, here's the correlation. The brain waves around when people think about money and about purchasing things, it's a very specific wave. And the emotions around fun, joy, and laughter are almost identical to the brain waves when they're thinking about money. So our goal is to, yes, we're going to sit in this place of what's going on, what's the concerns, oh my gosh, that's awful, but we're not going to leave them there to make a buying decision. In creating that environment, we have to emotionally take them in. That's why it's so important to paint a picture of the better life in the future and help them get there and be excited about it. Because when we create that fun, joy, laughter environment is infused into the emotions around their purchasing decision, now their brainwaves start to align with brainwaves that have to do with money and buying things. So it's a deep psychological side of what we do that, we don't take people through these data points in trainings or anything, but that's why it's important, because it's everything. It has everything to do with the logging in that motion, those emotions, but we get there through our energy. We lead the energy in the call. We have to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. And we take them to the place we want them to be.
Well said, my man. Well, as we wrap this up, Brandon, any final insights for the listeners?
Yeah, first I want to apologize to the listeners. So we had a technical difficulty and I didn't notice it until now. So anybody who's watching at this point, come down and get the replay, because apparently my story, and I just now found this out, for some reason we use StreamYard and it's supposed to post it to our pages, but it posted it to my page with the audience of only me. So the entire time, the reason we haven't been getting views or reactions is probably because of that. So the story is now public and there will be a replay. So I do apologize to the audience. Jason, you might check your page because it may have done the same thing to you.
Brandon, I've noticed the whole time, bud.
Unfortunately, that's just the
Well,
way
that
it is
just means we're
sometimes.
going to have to do another one.
It's all fine. It's all good.
The good news is that it will replay and everyone can go back and catch the replay. So, no problem there. But hey, Sam, I wanted to let you know, man, like, you inspire me all the time with your posts, the things that you're doing, the risks that you take. It's not easy to be a sales guru, and you might hate that word, but it's not easy to be out here online doing what you're doing. The competition is getting super saturated, and everybody and their mother wants to go and be a consultant today.
Right.
In fact, now we've got the old gurus now making courses to teach the new gurus, and I don't know where it's all going to go, but
Right.
you've been consistent, you've been stable, your show has been consistent, and so to me, that is what I look for in people that I like to have around. And I know our conversations in the past have been, really good. Me and you have been on the phone. We've been in Messenger. We've had a lot of great talks. And I just want to let you know you're someone that I deeply admire. And for anybody who needs sales training, for anybody who needs a guy who's going to be consistent, who isn't going to disappear tomorrow, who's been doing this thing and will continue doing this thing, Sam Wakefield with Close It Now, that is your guy. And I highly, highly recommend him. So I wanted to get that out there. Sam, it's been such a pleasure having you on today.
I appreciate it so much, man. It's been a fun journey, and I see the same thing. It's cool watching so many people pop up at the same time. Cream rises to the top. A lot of people will try it and realize it's way more work, and they think they're hitting the easy button. But my mission is to inspire, encourage, and motivate, and raise the entire standard of our industry as people. The tagline is be someone worth buying from. And when you become someone worth buying from, the sales just happen. Yes, we're training
Amen.
the rest, but that's it. So, and thanks for being on the Close It Now podcast in the past, Brandon. We've done an episode, and super excited about looking forward. Jason, you want to mention about that?
The next, we got some other stuff coming up. I just want to let the audience know, when you go through back this video, here's what you have to look forward to. We talked about selling, we talked about the customer connection, we talked about gross margin, we talked about client buy-in, we talked about healthier tickets, we talked about call by call, we talked about training beats the buzzword, we talk about questions in discovery. We talked about the longer discovery process equals higher tickets. We talked about option selling. We talked about option selling versus the role that the technician or the salesperson is in, and anything unexpected, and client buy-in and transformative phrasing. So it's been an action-packed episode for sure. And so what we have coming up, I'll thank Sam for his time, but Sam asked me to be on his podcast as well. We'll be looking forward to that perhaps towards the end of the month here. And obviously, Sam, it's been a good journey here on this hour that we've had, and got a lot of insight and pulled a lot of knowledge from you and your time in the industry. So we're thankful for that. We're thankful for the audience tuning in, and just want to remind them, Sam has the Close It Now podcast. He's got the new book coming out. Sam, you want to put your book on the front of the mic and front of the camera?
Inner Revolution, Embracing Change to Achieve Greatness.
Exactly.
Yeah, available
it is
on Amazon.
On Amazon. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to prove that I could read to everybody. That's the only reason. All right, Sam. Well, we appreciate you, my man, and we'll catch up here. I guess with Jason. I look forward to seeing that with you guys, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Sounds great. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
You bet, brother. See ya.
All right. Before we check off, we have a Free Advice Friday coming up every Friday in perpetuity. But next Friday, technical glitches resolved, we will be welcoming another just industry powerhouse. And in fact, she currently is the co-host of the Women in the Trades podcast with Cassie. She is a financial guru, if you will. I guess I'm using that word a lot these days, but she has so much experience in the trades that it is almost unbelievable the amount of knowledge that she has in the role of CFO and really scaling a company. She's helped scale a company to an incredible exit just recently, and someone that I also deeply admire. Her name is Heather. And Jason, you got any thoughts on having Heather here next Friday?
Obviously, incredible company that they built, scaled, and sold. When Travis sold it, Heather was his CFO there. She's built very large companies, and everybody knows when CFO. If you're looking forward to hearing what a CFO is, what a CFO role does, we talked about some of these hurdles coming up, and whether we talked today about 5 million to 10 million. Well, there is a point in time in your company where a CFO can be very transformative in your growth. And by having a CFO around, I think we're going to get a little bit of an insight into what that might look at and what CFOs look at, and a way for the owner to know perhaps how to transition into that role. And that's what we're all about on Rise and Scale, right, Brandon?
Yeah, man, it's incredible. Heather herself, she's had 26 years in the construction industry. She's obviously had a focus in on financial leadership, business management. She has done so much more than I could ever imagine doing. And so I'm just going to be probably a little starstruck to have her on the show, but looking forward to it. Guys, if you're on the replay and you made it this far, go ahead and comment replay. If you're still on for live, go ahead and say hello. But we're gonna, I think, check out, right, Jason? That's what we're here at the end, right? The end of the road.
Yeah, it's been a good hour. It's been a fun hour. Check the replay. We'll be back next Friday. Feel free to check out the feeds on our pages for the video we have today. And it's been a good morning so far. Thanks for spending the morning with me, my buddy. Hope everybody has a good day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, take care.